Variation in lumps and components. So that's the topic we are going to discuss today. So there are two types of variations in transaction contracts. One is directed variation, the other one is consecutive variation. Directed variation is mostly from the instruction is from the client. The client requests the contractor to make changes in the scope or quantity or whatever it may be. In addition to the lump sum scope that was discussed before. The second type is the most dangerous type, which is the constructive variation, where the variation comes along when proceed for the execution of the project. Maybe sometimes the site conditions or sometimes the regulatory changes that brings these things. And these changes are very challenging to prove them as a change, and it is not inside the lump sum contract. And to get the variation done is going to be difficult for the contractor. And that is why, to smoothen this process, most contracts have a change management procedure or a variation procedure or claims management procedure, whatever you call it. So that we will see how to handle it in every case. The most contracts define the rights and obligation of each stakeholder regarding the variations and under the control. So the clear understanding of these variations will avoid the conflicts, ensure compliance with contractual provisions, maintain collaborative project relationships. That's very important. What is a change management procedure? It is an effective variation management that requires a structured process. Because not every time you get a variation, it should not be an ad hoc process, it should be a structured process. So it defines the roles and responsibilities. What is the clear communication channel? The decision-making frameworks. What is the dispute escalation frameworks? The process enables early identification, evaluation, and the impact of these variations inside the project and control of the variations. So notification requirement is a very basic requirement in variation. So when the contractor becomes aware of that there is a variation, this usually happens in the consecutive variations. The contractor shall notify the employer. That is most important obligation because project is being executed by the contractor, and the contractor is the first stakeholder gets aware of the variation, especially the constructive variation. He has to notice the employer that there is a variation, and most contracts have particular day, either 28 days or 21 days. When the contractor will become aware of the variation, he has to notify the employer. Recently, I had a discussion with one of the followers who is from a PMC background. He asked that our contract clearly says that the notice for variation shall be separate and it shall not be mixed with any other notifications. Then we shared the notice, and the notice is clearly, we can understand that it is a variation, but it speaks about some other issues also. And the subject is not written as notice of variation. He said that how can we accept this as a notice of variation? This is not a notice of variation, and how it happens. And I advised personally, see, end of the day, the checklist comes down, and if you read the letter, it very well shows that it is a variation thing. So when you want to follow the contract and you want to counter with the class, better have an informal call with the contractor and say that you are submitting a claim. That is appreciated. But as per the contract, you have to submit this separately because only that goes to the track of the contract change management procedural committee. So better do that separately. So inform them in an informal way. Maintain a smooth relationship. Don't always be in the mode that how we can reject this claim, how we can suppress the contractor using this contract clause. See, end of the day, jurisdictions and law are very fair than the law. So when it goes to the law clearly identifies that it has all the characteristics of a variation claim notice. So it will be treated as notice. So that's because the contract is very stringent, we cannot take the cover. Then he notified the contractor, then the contractor came back and said that he'll try to mitigate whatever is possible. See, when you take one step forward for a smooth relationship, the other party will definitely take 2 steps for you to continue the relationship. So that's more important than this. All these procedures are followed only for a smooth business operation. It's nothing to suppress both the parties or one party should exploit the other party. That's not the reason for it. So let's go back to the presentation. So the next is the impact on cost and time. The most engineers, quality surveyors, whoever I have come across, contracts managers, they always treat a variation claim as a cost. They never see the impact of variation claim in time. If there is an impact of this variation claim in the critical path, it affects your project completion date, then it goes to a delay or it ends up in EOT. So I think variation has to be linked with the EOT in most cases. 99% variation will have an impact on time. So please check that. Be careful in calculating the time. And yes, of course, cost impact has to be analyzed. The contractor must evaluate the cost and time and impacts accurately. The client must understand financial and timeline implications. I'll say another example, which I recently came through in one of my discussion in WhatsApp group. There was an employer who says that the contractor has submitted the quotation for variation claim. So that is a variation. We have agreed that technically it is a variation. And now we have to evaluate the cost. The contractor has brought the 3 quotations, but all the 3 quotations were very high. And we asked for the breakup. The contractor is not giving them. And he literally says we have the rights to ask for the breakups. So I said, what the contract says? The contract says that the quotes has to be shared with the transparency of what is the markup the contract has. Right? The contract is very clear. Goes that 3 quotes has to be submitted. And you cannot immediately say ask for further details. And this delay in variation decision will affect the project. And that will be on the employer's accountability. So please take smooth decisions. If you think that can be done at a low cost with some other vendor, recommend them. And you should be responsible for the pre-qualifications. Okay. So you recommend the contractor to go with that contractor. If that contractor is also under the approved list, then recommend them. But blindly saying that all the 3 quotes are very high, we cannot go, that will not help the project. How you are going to move the project? That's more important for the smooth operation of the project. Documents and record keeping. And I want to add that some contractors, they try to exploit the variation situation. So they just beef up the cost when it comes to variation. That's not a good practice. Most contractors doesn't do, but some contractors do that. They think that this is going to be the last project and we have to take out as much as possible. Or they might have lost in some other place in this project, so they won't recover using this variation. So don't do that. If you be fair, the other party also be fair when it comes to the negotiation tables. Most contract settlements are done in negotiation tables, not in arbitrations. Negotiation is the first dispute resolution in all kinds of construction industry disputes. Almost 95% of disputes are settled in negotiations. The document and record keeping, that's very important. Strong documentation ensures accountability and dispute readiness. We create variation logs, so we have to include the variations, the correspondence, letters, emails, approvals. But then the variation has been technically approved, the cost has been approved, or time has been approved, that has to be kept separately. And cost records in the mix evidences like invoice you have paid, the core quotations you have received, or if you have used manpower resources, salary you have paid, everything should be with the clear back. Negotiation and agreement process. So successful variation management depends on collaborative negotiation. See, I feel that negotiation is a non-negotiable skill every contracts management professional needs. Do we get a proper training on negotiation? Most of the contracts managers doesn't have a proper skill on negotiation. They think that they gain that by experience. Of course, experience gives you a certain level of skill, but you have to take special steps to understand the negotiation skills. See, today it's an open source world. If you want to learn, you can learn from anywhere, in any source. So sharpen your skills, negotiation skills. That will pay you a lot, help your company a lot. Negotiations not only recover money, they recover relationships. So learn negotiation to keep smooth relationships. So open dialogue and solution-oriented thinking always help parties to reach equitable agreements, reduce adversarial positions, maintain project momentum. The implementation and execution of variations. So once approved, variations must be implemented effectively by updating the schedules, budgets, and plans, communicating the changes to the stakeholders and subcontractors, monitoring execution to avoid disruptions. So dispute resolution mechanism. So if negotiation fails, then you have to escalate the disputes. So it can be solved under other dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediation, adjudications, arbitrations. So proactive dispute resolution protects relationships and projects continue. Thanks for watching this video. If you need any support regarding contracts and claims, it might be an individual skill development or corporate skill development, or you want us to appear as a counsel for the claims management, negotiations, and arbitrations, then contact us and below. Thank you.